Okay, so I just saw an article that I need to speak on. All right, there was somebody from, I believe the article said that they were from the Bronx. All right, 11 years old. Law enforcement ends up coming, says that, someone had said that, somebody there had a gun. Everybody starts scrambling. Everybody starts running towards the person, so the person starts running. Officer ends up going ahead, tackling him down, arresting him with no cause. Keep in mind, he's 11 years old. Traumatized him. Because of that, doesn't play basketball anymore. Ended up having to relocate from New York to North Carolina. Alright? Understand, the amount that circumstance happens would blow your mind. Alright? Where I grew up in New York, there was, let's just put it to you this way, racial tensions were very high. Ultimately, where I grew up was one of the first places, in the country that people coming from Mexico would go ahead and stand at the corner of the 7-Eleven or stand in front of the Home Depot waiting for day laborer jobs. All right? So there were people that were actually pissed off that they felt like they were taking the construction jobs. So what they would do was they'd let them go ahead and work and work and work, build houses, build whatever infrastructure needed, masonry, all of that. They would let them do that until they got up enough money to be able to go ahead and pay off their house. And then once they ended up paying off their house, which keep in mind, usually there was an informant from the actual bank to let the person know, hey, the person's house is paid off. At that point, they would end up going ahead, throwing a Molotov cocktail through the house, burning the house down. There's an entire documentary called Farmingville from back in 2000, somewhere between the 2004 and 2007 point. But that's what I was trying to get away from. That was my reason for being willing to move in the first place. Keep in mind, I ended up also getting targeted. Now, the fucked up thing about it is, well, everybody wants to go and throw stigmas on because, tattoos, because, clearly because, Hispanic, obviously drug dealer, this, that, all the fucking stereotypes. Now, the fucked up thing is, do you know what actually got me targeted? Yeah, I had actually went to a club that predominantly people from the Latin community went to. Like, keep in mind, when I went, I wasn't even drinking, you know? But apparently you go ahead and you go to a club where, majority of the people don't speak English, that majority of the people, you know, they're going there to actually enjoy some music, actually be able to just release some tensions after having to hear all the racially driven bullshit. And apparently, you're the fucking, it's like, oh, guess what? In this race war that we're starting to stoke up, you chose your side. Well, if you saying that I chose my side, yeah, I chose the side of the people that weren't going ahead and trying to start a whole fucking race war. So, yeah, I guess I chose the right side. My point on this is, law enforcement ended up also going ahead and getting weaponized against him. An officer that ended up going ahead and arresting that 11-year-old boy who now is 16 years old, still trying to work through the trauma, still having a hard time even playing basketball. He doesn't know how to be able to work through his issues the way that I'm having a hard time being able to figure out how to work through the issue of the way that law enforcement got weaponized against me. And the sad thing is, it seems like Republican-led states, they actually go ahead and encourage authoritarian, like dictator, methods to go ahead and get weaponized. And the fucked up thing is, they don't give a fuck if you were the victim of the circumstance or if you were the perpetrator. It's literally all about power. So, that being said, that same officer that didn't even, use the proper process, ended up violating his constitutional and civil liberties, ended up going ahead and getting promoted, and then becomes the subject expert. So, you get to be a subject expert after you, quote unquote, don't understand how to do your job right, or you didn't do anything wrong. Well, meantime, you end up going ahead and making it seem like, an 11-year-old boy was resisting arrest because he didn't want to get fucking trampled by a crowd that was... Which, by the way, just understand, if you got a crowd of people running, alright? Say, even if it's a small crowd, alright? That crowd of, let's just say 5 people, alright? If they go ahead and they're running, and you've got one person, it doesn't matter how strong that one person is, and how much they got their feet planted or anything like that. The only safety that they have is to go ahead and fall up into the fetal position. If they don't, ultimately they could end up going ahead and having their kidneys, their liver, their ribs, their stomach, as well as the rib cage going ahead and, splintering and stabbing right into one of the ventricles of their heart from the pressure. Alright? So ultimately, him running was to save his life from being trampled by a crowd that was, complete and total disarray because they heard gun and they didn't want to worry about ending up getting killed in a mass casualty situation. Really, really check the optics, alright? And understand something. The one thing that at this point, unless you've lived it, doesn't get universally understood is if there is no video or there is altered video submitted by law enforcement, or they go ahead and do not bring video evidence to support their claims in whatever written statement that somebody ended up putting, don't believe them. Do not believe them. There's a reason that body cams became, best practices. It's because of the factor that too often the officers report and their implicit bias ended up saying something completely different from the body cam footage. So if you are worrying about an arrest situation that a law enforcement officer at any point either turned their body cam off, didn't have their body cam on, even from the start or at any point, or there seems to be any type of, video editing, and there's not full transparency of the metadata giving a statement of the date, the time, and the actual source and everything of the video footage to go ahead and show that ends up lining up with the actual report, don't trust it.